Football, a comprehensive look at all this week's action in Big Sky Football. Now here's your host, Scott Garrard.
Welcome on in. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm your host, Scott Garrard. Thanks for joining us. Good show lined up for you today. We've got Northern Colorado coach Earnest Collins Jr., Northern Arizona quarterback Case Cookus, and one of our favorites, he's the executive director of FCS football for Stats, Craig Haley. He will join us coming up in segment number 3. But let's get your lineup of games that took place this previous weekend. After a tremendous opening weekend for Big Sky football, second week proved to be a little bit tougher as several teams faced nationally ranked teams on the road. However, a few Big Sky teams picked up some quality wins, and we'll start with a recap of those scores right now. First, a week after beating Washington State, how about Portland State traveling to Pocatello to take on Idaho State, a team that did not lose last year at home? Whatever magic the Vikings had bottled up didn't run out, as a 96-yard kick return helped propel Portland State past ISU 34-14. Vikings now are 2-0 and 1-0 in league play as they prepare for their bye week. North Dakota also moving to 2-0 on the season with a 21-18 victory over the Drake Bulldogs. UND quarterback Keaton Studford threw for 3 touchdowns in the win. More on him coming up a little bit later on in the show. And how about Northern Colorado? Big road victory over Southland Conference Houston Baptist. Bears with a 34-10 win as they led wire to wire in that game. Again, in just a few moments, we'll chat with Northern Colorado head coach Earnest Collins Jr. Northern Arizona with a 41-5 victory over New Mexico Highlands. NAU quarterback Case Cookus will join us coming up a little bit later on in the show. Also, tough weekend for several Big Sky teams. They went on the road to face nationally ranked Missouri Valley opponents. Eastern Washington fell in a shootout with Northern Iowa 38-35. Cooper Kupp, another big performance in that game. Then Weber State, a week after hanging tough against Oregon State, they struggled in a loss to North Dakota State 41-14. Southern Utah, a week after playing really well against Utah State, they fall to South Dakota State 55-10. UC Davis hosted Missouri Valley, a member of the Missouri Valley member, South Dakota, at home. Aggies fell in that game 27-17 after being down early 20-3. Two Big Sky teams also played Pac-12 schools. Sacramento State lost to Washington 49-0. The other game was Cal Poly at Arizona State. At one point, that game squared at 21 apiece in the fourth quarter, but just couldn't get the victory, finally falling 35-21. So there's your recap of the scores from around the conference. All right, again, joining us, what should be one of our favorite conversations we have every year on this show. It's the head coach of Northern Colorado, Earnest Collins Jr., kind enough to join us. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm great. What kind of energy is in your building right now after starting off the season 2-0?
I mean, it's pretty good, man. Anytime you can win the first couple ball games, the energy is going to be great with your kids, and now it's just about, staying hungry and staying humble. So that kids, the more you win, the more humble you got to become, and just continue to work on the process of becoming a great football team.
Sometimes as a coach, is it difficult to try to get your team to deal with prosperity as much as it is with adversity?
Yeah, we've had enough adversity around here, so I'm having fun dealing with prosperity part right now.
It's a good problem to have, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no question.
No doubt. Your team has had its struggles over the last few seasons. What's the biggest difference? I know it's still early in the year, but what's the thing that makes, at least has appeared to have things turned around there at Northern Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is competition. Most of the spots we have true competition at right now, and so you got to get it done in practice. So you won't be on the field as much as you like to be on Saturday. And the other part is our guys are just coming together as a team, as a family. So we're working here, and it's starting to come together. Our guys are taking care of the discipline part. I have to do very little of that. And so usually when your guys take over your ball club, you tend to be going in the right direction.
You led wire to wire in that Houston Baptist game. What do you think helped you establish control of that game from start to finish?
Well, for one, we tackled better on defense this week. The first week we had a few issues, and we still didn't tackle as great as we wanted to, but it was much better. We had a much better game tackling performance, should I say, in this game. And right before halftime, we were able to conserve some time on the clock and make them punt it with about a minute left or so. Before halftime, we were able to, score 3 for a punt return for a touchdown, and that kind of got it going. And once that happened, we came out in the second half, and we started moving the ball on offense and putting some things in the end zone.
When you talk about building depth, obviously that goes to recruiting. How difficult has that process been over the last few years, building the depth to where you feel like you can compete week in and week out in the Big Sky Conference?
I would say difficult is just taking time. Anytime you haven't had a winning season in years, it takes time to convince kids. You may get 4 or 5 that can impact your program one year, and it's not quite enough. But as the years go on, you get 4 or 5 of those each year, and all of a sudden you have the depth to create competition in practice. And so that's really what we've been working on. And this year we'll see all that come to fruition this year, and come out on top in some ball games.
Well, one of those guys is certainly an impact player. Your safety, Taylor Risner, named the Root Sports Defensive Player of the Week. We're going to make that announcement a little later in the show, but that's a little bit of a spoiler for you. What kind of presence does he have in that backfield for you?
Well, Taylor Risner, he's just a leader for us, man. He's from a small town 30 miles up the street from Wiggins, and he just comes from a football family. And, he probably played every other position in high school except for the O-line and the D-line, but he's a smart kid. He knows where to be. Taylor, like I said, he was voted one of our team captains this year, and he's just one of those guys that is going to be in the right spot at the right time, and it's our job to get him in those positions that he can make plays and utilize his talent. And so it just showed up this weekend.
How much easier does that make your job when you know you've got a guy like that that's essentially a assistant coach out on the field for that defense?
Well, that's good. Anytime you have that, and that's, Taylor's going into, I want to say, his junior year, redshirt junior year or something like that. And so it makes a difference when you got guys that have been in your program, been here since the beginning. They understand what you want. Not even per se from an X's and O's standpoint, just know what you want from your guys, the attitude and the effort. And those are 2 things that, it don't take coaching. It don't take talent. You got to have a great attitude and great effort, and that's what it's all about, and that's what he simplifies both of those things.
Got a showdown with Southern Utah. They had a really great game. Just couldn't finish it against Utah State out of the Mountain West Conference and struggled last week. What do you see on Southern Utah that jumps out at you on film?
They're portrayed from the score. But South Dakota State was able to get some balls over the top and had some things that caused them some problems. But, you just look at their defense overall. They fly to the ball. They're very aggressive. They got some big boys up front that we got to continue with. And, I like the way they move. Me being a defensive coach, when you watch it, you admire the way they tackle. And we got to find some ways to take advantage of that. It's kind of similar to more aggressive defense, kind of similar to what we faced last weekend. Since they had some athletes out there who are really aggressive, and sometimes that can be to your advantage as an offense. And so we got to find ways with our game plan to take advantage of the aggressiveness, of a defense like that. And the offense, the quarterback's the vet. They got a couple running backs that they use, and we just got to make sure we don't let them get going in the run game. So we can hold them down in the run game and go from there. We should be okay this weekend, but you're in the Big Sky. In the Big Sky every week, it's a battle. It's a dogfight. So there's you got to account for everybody every week.
What's that grade like in the Big Sky Conference? Because it seems like for the most part, there's really no weeks off in this conference.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but I kind of attest it to what everybody talks about the SEC, and you go in and everybody's beating everybody up. I think last week, I don't know about this week, but I know last week there were 6 teams that were in our conference that were fighting for top 25 positions, and so every week it's a dogfight. And the talent is great in the Big Sky, and you just look at Grand Adam leaving the Big Sky, going to the Pac-12 and holding his own, and so those are the types of things we deal with every week. In the Big Sky, coaches do a great job of recruiting and building teams, and it's taking a while for us to catch up, and we'll have a good test this weekend.
You certainly, obviously, with the 2-0 start and a team that you have had your struggles over the last couple of years, but do you get the vibe on campus within students and the people you interact with that there's a new energy surrounding the football program?
Well, it's just started. We had one game at home, which was a good outing for us. We had an in-state team, and there's some people in the stand, and we were on the road, and so for us, I'm not on campus that much this time of the year. My head's buried in this office, watching film and things like that. So, that would be a question for the kids. But I know our kids are starting to understand that, if we just take care of the little things, DYJ, as our coaches say all the time, just do your job and understand what the process is, how to get to where we want to be, and not focus on the outcome. Just focus on the process, the little things that need to take place in between the victories. You tend to create that vibe for yourself. And so I'm pretty sure we can keep this thing rolling. Next time we come back home, I'll be able to see that, feel that vibe that we're trying to create.
Well, I'm sure it's there, Coach. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Good luck this week.
No problem. My pleasure.
Northern Colorado coach Earnest Collins Jr. kind enough to join us here on This Week in Big Sky Football. Busy show coming up for you. We're just getting started here, folks. Coming up here in our next segment, we'll get a complete breakdown of all the games coming up this weekend and where you can watch those games on TV. We'll also chat with Northern Arizona quarterback Case Cookus. In our third segment, we'll announce our players of the week, the Root Sports players of the week for the offense, defense, and special team side. And, of course, we'll also have another conversation with the executive director of FCS football for Stats, Craig Haley. That's all coming up in segment number 3. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm Scott Garrard, Austin Horton putting it together as well. Stay tuned. Segment number 2 coming up next on another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football.
In the NCAA Division I Football Championship Subdivision, the game is played with perseverance, integrity, passion, character, and sportsmanship. As he works to honor the game and respect his teammates, opponents, officials, and fans, every FCS player grows in his responsibilities as a student and as a member of his campus and community. Dedicated to personal growth and success in the classroom, the NCAA Division I FCS. Every down, every day.
We play to win, but it's bigger than winning. It's about authenticity, being true to yourself, genuine dreams and a country big enough to fit them, values and hard work, giving your best and giving back, working together, building a tradition bigger than any one of us, and showing the world every day who we are and how we play. We're Big Sky. We are the heart of the American West.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Go ahead. Welcome all back. Segment number 2 here on This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm Scott Garrard. Austin Horton, as always, helping make the magic happen. All right, time to get your rundown of the televised games coming up this week. A reminder that Root Sports, the official television partner of the Big Sky Conference, Root Sports coverage of Big Sky Football will begin this Saturday. What a game between these two. Montana State travels to Eastern Washington. Now, keep in mind, that's a non-conference game, but a big one nonetheless. That game will kick off at 2 o'clock Mountain Time and will also be available on DirecTV's Audience Network. Idaho State will take on Boise State. That game will kick off at 7 o'clock Mountain and will be available on the CBS Sports Network. 2 Big Sky games on ESPN3. First, longtime rivals North Dakota and North Dakota State will battle in Fargo for bragging rights. That's a 2:30 start time Central Time. Then Montana will travel to Liberty in a game that will kick off at 7 o'clock Eastern. Sacramento State will be at Weber State. That game available in Utah on KJazz TV with a 6 o'clock Mountain kickoff. Also, Northern Iowa will play Cal Poly as those two nationally ranked teams will face off at 7 o'clock Pacific on American Sports Network, as well as KSBY in St. Louis Obispo. And Northern Arizona will play Arizona at 8 o'clock Mountain Time on the Pac-12 Network. UC Davis will play at Hawaii. That game starting at 6 o'clock on Hawaiian time. Also, remember, Northern Colorado and Southern Utah will play at 6 o'clock. You can watch that game, the Weber State-Sacramento State game, and the Northern Iowa-Cal Poly game, all online at watchbigsky.com. All right, let's go out to the phones. Welcome in quarterback of the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, Case Cookus, is kind enough to join us. Case, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Your team's 2-0. You're ranked 24th in both the stats and coaches poll. What's it like to have this kind of early success as a freshman?
It's great to have success, but you got to stay focused. Don't want to get caught up on the wins. You got to focus on each week. Right now we're focusing on Utah Bay.
You were the National Freshman of the Week for FCS football last week. Now, I understand you're all about the wins and losses, and you're a team guy, but when you get those kind of honors, that's got to be a nice accomplishment.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to get recognized for my first college game, first time playing, and it's great because everyone's helped me out. Receivers are great, offensive line is doing great, and it helps to have a great scheme on offense.
No doubt about it. Now let's talk about some of those offensive weapons. Casey Yon at running back, Emmanuel Butler at wide receiver. It's got to be a nice safety blanket for you as a freshman to come in and be able to rely on some of those guys.
Yeah, it's great. Casey, the senior, really helps me out in the backfield. We're always communicating, talking to each other. And then Emmanuel, what's great about him is he's still a sophomore. So I get a few more years with him, and that's awesome because he's making big-time plays. And hopefully we can keep doing that for a few more years.
Talk a little bit about their skill sets, though. What makes those two individuals so dangerous for teams to game plan against?
Well, Casey, he has the experience and the ability to just make people miss, which is great. So you need a couple extra yards. He'll make the safety miss, pop off a big play. Always great to get the momentum going, that we can get going faster in our tempo. Emmanuel, he's this really big physical guy, can go up and catch the ball against the best DBs in the country. And it helps knowing when I drop back that if I need a guy to make a play, I can throw the ball up 50-50 and hit. I know that he's going to go make that play.
Case Cookus joining us, quarterback for Northern Arizona, kind enough to carve out a few moments for us. Let's learn a little bit about you. What was behind the decision-making process to come to Northern Arizona?
Well, the decision to come here was pretty easy, actually. I went to junior college out of high school, got hurt, gray-shirted. So I was playing at Ventura College. And so during the spring, worked out with the team, kind of sent my spring film out to a few coaches, and NAU had lost a guy that had committed. So Coach Paul came up to me and asked if I wanted to come up. Came up, tried out for the team, and it worked out. So they offered me, and that was really my only offer on the table. And I loved it up here. I thought it was a pretty cool scene. Loved all the people, loved the coaches, and it was a pretty easy decision to come up here.
Wow. It's amazing how things work out like that. You got a big one coming up this weekend. You are at Arizona. You excited to suit up and play in that Pac-12 stadium?
I'm really excited. I know as a quarterback, you shouldn't get too excited about any game, but it's exciting because I get to prove myself. I am still a freshman. I've only played 2 games, and it'll be the biggest game of my career right now. So I'm excited for it.
So let's take a look at you individually. What are the biggest improvements you've made since the start of the season, and what are the areas you still want to work on going throughout the course of this season, the pre-conference season and going into the conference season as well?
I would love to master the offense. I make a few mistakes here and there, and if I can cut those down, it could really help the team. So I think mastering the offense completely, because I have a good grasp on it, but if I can know what Coach Paul is going to call before he even calls it and get on the same page with him, that'd be great, because then I can just let it go and not think about too much or overthink things, because I know what I'm doing.
Good stuff. Case, we appreciate it, man. Good luck this weekend. Should be a lot of fun for you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Hey, pleasure's all ours. Case Cookus, quarterback from Northern Arizona, joining us. The 2-0 Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, as they got a big one coming up this weekend as they head to Pac-12's Arizona. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back for segment number 3, in which we will reveal our Root Sports Players of the Week. We'll also have a conversation with Craig Haley from Stats to get the national perspective of FCS football. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football.
We play to win, but it's bigger than winning. It's about authenticity, being true to yourself, genuine dreams and a country big enough to fit them, values and hard work, giving your best and giving back. working together, building a tradition bigger than any one of us, and showing the world every day who we are and how we play. We're Big Sky. We are the heart of the American West.
In the NCAA Division I Football Championship Subdivision, the game is played with perseverance, integrity, passion, character, and sportsmanship. As he works to honor the game and respect his teammates, opponents, officials, and fans, every FCS player grows in his responsibilities as a student and as a member of his campus and community. Dedicated to personal growth and success in the classroom, the NCAA Division I FCS. Every down, every day.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football.
Final segment of this edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. We'll chat with Craig Haley from Stats coming up here in just a moment. But before that, let's reveal our Root Sports Players of the Week. Starting on the offensive side, North Dakota quarterback Keaton Studsrud, who threw 3 touchdowns in North Dakota's win over Drake, 21-18. Finished with that 21-18 win over Drake with career-high in completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. UND is 2-0 for the first time since 2012. Defensive Player of the Week is Northern Colorado safety Taylor Risner. Risner registered a career-high 16 tackles in Northern Colorado's victory over Houston Baptist, 34-10. And finally, the Root Sports Special Teams Player of the Week is Portland State's Khalil Dawson, receiving the kickoff after an Idaho State touchdown. No big deal, just went 96 yards into the end zone, delivering a touchdown that kept the Vikings from ever looking back in a big road victory for Portland State. The first conference game of the season featured these two teams, and Portland State got the win 34-14. They as well are 2-0 on the season. All right, time for another great conversation with Craig Haley of Stats. Craig, how are you, my friend?
Okay, how you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well. All right, so the Big Sky Conference in the Missouri Valley did battle several games this weekend. Didn't go quite well for the Big Sky Conference. Give me your thoughts on some of those games.
Well, I mean, obviously the week before was a terrific week for the Big Sky. The Missouri Valley is the best conference in the FCS right now. I mean, there's no shame in going to Northern Iowa and losing by a field goal. And you know, it's very hard to beat the national champs, North Dakota State. So yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, Big Sky's still going to have a big year, and you know, there's obviously other Missouri Valley and Big Sky matchups ahead. So, no, I think it's okay. I mean, you're not going to beat that conference week to week.
Let's get your thoughts on Portland State. They start off the season 2-0, a nice road win at Idaho State. What are your thoughts on that squad?
Well, I think it's great that they've rallied around Bruce Barnum. He's on a 1-year contract, and there's somebody that they're familiar with, and they want to do well. And a flying start to beat Washington State, and then go to Idaho State, which hadn't lost at home last year. I think they're playing efficiently. They're winning. Controlling the ball and playing enough defense. I think it's a great story that hopefully people around the country are waking up to.
Yeah, no doubt. Northern Iowa takes on Cal Poly this weekend. I'm really looking forward to this one. This should be a fun one.
Talk about a contrasting style for Northern Iowa to be having to face go from Eastern Washington to Cal Poly. That's a tough game. I mean, you go out to Cal Poly on a late night Saturday kind of game. You're primed for an upset, and Northern Iowa's really going to have to do a lot this week to prepare for the triple option. I think this is kind of a big game for both seasons. Whoever wins is right there nationally among the best. I mean, I think Cal Poly has a shot here, off of last week's game for sure.
I don't know the politics behind this, so I can't speak about this from an education standpoint, but North Dakota and North Dakota State, they're going to play this weekend. That's the first time since 2003. Craig, do you have any idea why it took so long for those two teams to play?
Well, it's a tough game, as North Dakota State's program has won and really become the dominant power. It's a game where they it's tough for them to walk away as a winner.
Yes.
And they're expected to win this. That's why they've scheduled a couple games at home. Losing to North Dakota, gives North Dakota bragging rights, and the Bison don't want to give that over. North Dakota's coming in really playing well. You mentioned Keaton Studford is off to a flying start. It's still going to be a tough game to win in the Fargo Dome, but this is certainly a game they come in UND with a lot of momentum.
All right, so the big matchup, and it's a non-conference game by Big Sky Conference standards, but certainly the game of the week. Eastern Washington, they're 0-2 on the season, but they're still ranked 14th in the polls. They'll play 11th-ranked Montana State on Root Sports this weekend. Montana State obviously wants to get this win, but Eastern Washington, if they start off the season 0-3, it's a real damaging thing for them. So from your perspective, who needs this game more?
Well, I do think Eastern Washington. I mean, if they went to 0-3, it would be a real test to keep them in the top 25. But everybody knows they're one of the top 25 teams. They're the two favorites going into the year. It's a wide open league. Eastern Washington has to get a run game going to help out the passing attack. They got to stop people. They've given up 99 points. Montana State a year ago couldn't stop people. So this should be an end-to-end kind of game. Maybe both teams get into the 50s, but I do think Eastern Washington needs it more. Montana State's in a great spot because they're coming off a bye, and each team knows each other. So I think it's a great game. I'm going to go with the Eagles at home, kind of with their backs to the wall.
No doubt. Craig Haley, we appreciate it. Thanks so much for your time. Let's do it again soon.
Sure. Thank you, Scott.
Craig Haley of Stats joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Football. All right, we want to give you a quick rundown of the games this weekend before we wrap up this edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. So let's start with Idaho State and Boise State, Friday, 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Montana State and Eastern Washington. You just heard Craig break that game down. What a monster of a game. That'll be on Root Sports with a 2:05 start time. North Dakota travels to North Dakota State. Kickoff on that one, 2:30 Central Time on ESPN3. Also on ESPN3, Montana will play at Liberty with a 7 o'clock Eastern kickoff time. Northern Colorado will play at Southern Utah. You can catch that game at 6 o'clock on WatchBigSky.com. Sacramento State at Weber State. If you're in Utah, you can watch that game on KJAZ 14 with a 6 o'clock Mountain Time. Northern Iowa is at Cal Poly, 7 o'clock Pacific on American Sports Network, KSBY, and also on WatchBigSky.com. Northern Arizona will be at Arizona, 8 o'clock Mountain Time start for that one, and you can catch it on the Pac-12 Network. Then UC Davis at Hawaii, 6 o'clock Hawaii time, that game on Oceanic Time Warner Cable. That'll do it for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football. Big thanks to Northern Colorado coach Earnest Collins, NAU quarterback Case Cookus, as well as Craig Haley of Stats. I'm Scott Garrard. Join us next week for another edition of This Week in Big Sky Football.